Hi everybody, I'm Tabitha and I'm in my cozy little reading nook because I read 5 more books. So this is my first set of reviews for the month of November, but it's actually going to be a few, let's call them bonus books that I was able to finish before October was over, and then we'll jump into the November ones. Whatever, it's 5 books and that's all you really care about. I will say if you're looking for my rating scale or how I rate books, you can now find that at the end of the video. So in the description we've put a helpful little timestamp that'll let you jump right to it. Speaking of timestamps, there's also timestamps for each of the books I'm about to review. So if you've already watched it and you're just looking for something specific, you can click on that timestamp and it'll help you jump right to it. Are you ready? Let's go. The next book I actually squeezed in at the end of October was A Map to the Stars by Hutchison. This is an adult age category nonfiction novel, more like a memoir. It was published in 2020 by Lost Boys Press. They are an independent publishing company, and it is 117 pages. Your synopsis. Ripped from the only home she ever knew, young Avery endures a horrific childhood filled with betrayal and abuse without the promise of a happily ever after. So what didn't I like about this story? Well, the first thing, and I always like to do this when I'm giving you books that have content warnings, is a content warning. This one certainly features family turning their back on children. It features abuse and neglect. If those bother you or are triggers for you, maybe skip this one. Second thing I can say I didn't particularly like about this one is it does leave things unspoken. This isn't necessarily like an instant bad thing. It's just something I kept catching myself thinking. This book definitely uses poetry as a way to express emotion. More on that in a minute. But poetry can often leave things unsaid. It implies things without speaking them, if that makes sense. In a book, that means you aren't often entirely sure of the events that unfolded. Third thing I can say I didn't like about this one is that there are a few instances where words run together to show a stream of consciousness. So in other words, a person thinks them really fast, and so they're typed without spaces between them. Most of the time in this book, it works really well. But there is exactly one instance where I actually had to stop everything else and reread that 2 or 3 times to figure out what the words were supposed to be. That is the exact opposite of the intention. The intention was supposed to be to make you feel like it was so rushed that the words ran together. But instead I had to stop, pull myself out of the book, slow down and try to figure out what it said. That one instance didn't work. So what did I like about this one? First of all, it's emotional. I love poetry. I love being able to connect with the raw emotions of the poet just by reading their words and analyzing line breaks and white space. This book reads like a poem. It is full of raw emotion, and I loved that. Second thing I can say I liked about this one is that the formatting lends itself to fast reading. This one is formatted to move you through the story quickly. It reads like a journal or notes from the author herself, coming to terms with a really damaging past. The formatting sets the pace for this story in a really expert way. The third thing I can say I liked about this one is the connections. You feel like you really connect with Avery, or the author in this one, through the emotions and through the scenes that are shared with you. It's really just a beautiful experience that the author lets you into. Who do I think should read this one? If you're a fan of really emotional contemporary stories, I think you're going to like the quick connection to Avery in this one. I think you're just going to love that you are dropped into her real journal. You almost get like a backseat to her thoughts, and that's just beautiful. I also think if you're a reader who enjoys poetry anthologies, like I do, you'll really adore this one. It's not technically poetry, but I think it has enough of a poetry feel that poetry fans are really going to love it. My rating? I gave this one 3 stars. I think this one's going to appeal to a lot of readers, but you have to be at that niche of poetry and then nonfiction or contemporary. I really do think that the right readers are going to find this to be an absolute new favorite, but it does have to find the right readers. So if it sounds like you, definitely go out and get this one. 3 stars for A Map to the Stars by Hutchison. The next book I squeezed in towards the end of October is If Then by Kate Hope Day. This is an adult age category contemporary story. It was published in 2019 by Random House, and it is 260 pages. Your synopsis. The residents of a sleepy mountain town are rocked by visions of alternate realities. So what didn't I like about this one? Well, the first thing I'm going to say is that the timeline on this one can get a little confusing. You may have to focus on this one, so just be ready for that. If you don't like feeling slightly confused, you may want to skip this one. Second thing I can say I liked about this one is the ending. Something about this ending felt anticlimactic to me. I don't know. I wanted something more, although I'm not even sure what would adequately explain what I was looking for or what went wrong with this one. Like, it just felt off, and I can't even explain why, which is frustrating, but there it is. Third thing I can say I didn't like about this one is that I wanted more obvious lessons. I wanted like this multiverse, alternate universe sort of thing to be explored even bigger. I wanted more of the characters to understand what was going on. I don't know. I just wanted more obvious, I guess. And I was a little disappointed that it was almost like a side story, if that makes sense. I don't know. It'll make sense to people who've read it. What did I like about this one? Well, the first thing I can say that I did like is that the whole what if game is one that we have all played out in our minds, right? I'm sure. I loved the idea of taking that, what if I'd done this in my life? What if I'd chosen this path? What if I made this choice? And playing that out in sort of a science fiction kind of way. I mean, that was epic. That was just gorgeous. More books like that, please. Second thing I can say I liked about this story is that it does feature crossing storylines. I love when stories do this right, but there are stories that do it wrong. But when it's done right, it's like my favorite. You're following character 1 and then character 2 separately, right? And then you have that moment where you realize that character 1 is in character 2's story, right? They're like each other's side characters. And it's just like that rush, that great feeling that you get. We're like, oh, I get it now, right? I love stories like that. I love when it works, and it worked for this story. Third thing I can say I liked about this one is that it has beautiful, beautiful language. I mean, really. The descriptions that work their way into this one are nothing short of gorgeous. This author has a masterful grasp of the English language. I mean, really, truly. This book was just beautiful. The language is great. The descriptions are great. If you are a language aficionado, I definitely think you should be reading this book. Speaking of that, who do I think should read this one? If you like stories that overlap character lives, you're going to love this one. If you like contemporary stories that bend the rules of what's possible a little and play with fantasy that seems realistic, you're going to love this one. My rating? I gave this one 3 stars. I enjoyed this journey, and for the right reader, this is a great book. So 3 stars for If Then by Kate Hope Day. This next book was recommended based on my most recent 5-star read before the month started. The last book I squeezed in at the end of October was Illuminae by Amie Kaufman and Kristoff. This is a 2015 publication by Knopf Books. It is a young adult age category science fiction novel, and it is 608 pages. This title was actually recommended to me, I don't even know how many times, by all of you people who know what I like in a book. And let me just say this, you are all geniuses. Your synopsis. This morning, Katie thought breaking up with Ezra was the hardest thing she'd ever have to do. This afternoon, her planet was invaded. So what didn't I like about this one? If I'm being picky, because I kind of have to be, there are a few spots where the light gray text on black paper is a little tough to read. But like, turn on a light or something and squint at it, because it's totally worth it. Again, being picky. But the only other thing I can say about this one that I didn't like is the boxes covering the curse words. So there's like blacked out boxes covering all the curse words. Okay, they're a little annoying. Like aesthetically, I love it. I love it. But my brain wanted to like fill in what curse word that must have been. And there was a few times where I was like, man, this could be more than one. And so I was like, had this burning curiosity. And I'm like, wait, how long is it? Is it how many letters? I spent too much time on it. So if I'm being picky, you know, maybe that didn't work. Whatever. What did I like about this one? Oh, buckle up. Okay, so the first thing I liked about this one is the formatting. Oh, it's risky. That was risky, but wow, does it work. So this one features black pages, crossed out lines, text conversations, designs with lettering. I mean, it is all absolutely amazing. It made the entire reading of this book feel like an experience. It's taking you on this journey. Some of it is artistic. I mean, just what a risk, but wow, what a beautiful way to write a book. Unbelievable. I'm telling everybody to read this one. That was so cool. Second thing I can say I liked about this one, it is so incredibly unique. The book covers a bunch of favorite sci-fi topics, right? Which you think makes it ununique. So, I mean, we're talking about artificial intelligence, space travel, war between two large entities, viruses with zombie-style afflictions, right? But they're all going to hit together in such a different way that this is so different than anything else that's out there. And it just packs a serious punch. I love books that are different. I love books that take risks. And this one was just like checking every box for me. So incredibly cool. You guys are geniuses. So incredibly cool. Third thing I can say I liked about this one is, oh my gosh, is it emotional. From the beginning, we're dealing with a group of people who are like fleeing an attack on their planet to the end when, spoilers, redacted, can't tell you. This entire book is emotional. We're dealing with loss. We're dealing with sacrifice. We're dealing with love. I mean, this whole book is going to hit you in the feels in the best possible way. The final thing I can say I liked about this one, and you guys know how much I love this, which is probably why you told me to read it, is this one has big thematic lessons. You know I love that in my books, and this one just, oh. I mean, is there a cost too high for saving lives? Right? I mean, what are the costs of artificial intelligence running everything? I love digging into deep themes that resonate and make you think, and this book just, oh my God. Also, I was immediately tempted to like pull out notebooks and start running the numbers relating to those percentages. And it would just be, I mean, really, really cool lessons for like high school students actually running those numbers, the population numbers of the ship and the percentages and stuff like that. I just think it would be really cool. The lessons that you could pull out of that would just be amazing. I mean, it would be difficult to read this with a group of kids. Yeah, but I already see lessons dancing in my brain. It's the teacher in me, I guess. Who do I think should read this one? So many people. Seriously. But I'm going to try and list them all. Are you ready? Okay. Reluctant hero fans. Because you never know how strong you can be until strong is your only choice, man. Science fiction fans. Hello. This one starts with a group of people fleeing a planet under attack. And the whole thing takes place in space. Fans of original formatting styles, because this one is about to blow your mind. Epic fantasy fans, because the world building here is intense and you could really study this. High school teachers who like to pull literature into math lessons and take creative risks with what they're teaching. I mean, you're all gonna love it. My rating, friends, I gave this one 5 stars. This formatting is genius. This book is masterful. The emotional side is well written. This book is going to appeal to many readers, and I'm going to be screaming at everybody to get it like you were all screaming at me. Go get it. It will not let you down. 5 stars to Illuminae by Amie Kaufman and Kristoff. All right, watchers, you just heard me give this book 5 stars. That means if you have a book that you think is similar to this book, please make sure you drop the name of the book and the author down below in the comments, because I'll be choosing books based on this one for next month's TBR. This next book is officially the first one I actually read in the month of November. And that book was The Fields by Sammi Leigh Melville. This is a young adult age category fantasy novel. It was independently published in 2018 and it is 275 pages. Your synopsis. They all came from the mud. People of the southern village work to unearth people just like someone unearthed them. But Makisa is not mudborn and her sister has fallen under the mud. Can Makisa rally the villagers and save her sister? So what didn't I like about this one? The first thing I can say I didn't like is that this book does have some unanswered questions. Normally, I like unanswered questions, but in this one, it almost felt confusing, a little more than satisfying. I'm not exactly sure what's really going on. Like, I don't feel like I have all the pieces, and that is a weird feeling. Second thing I can say I didn't like about this one is it does feature a know-it-all character. I am never a fan of this trope, so that is a weirdly personal one, and I know that. I never really liked that one character who has all the information and then doesn't want to tell anybody else, right? They keep these big secrets, and when someone else starts to figure out their secrets, they try to sabotage them. Boo on this type of character. And I can't tell you who, because that feels like it's probably a spoiler. So what did I like about this one? The first thing I could say I liked is the entire concept. It's original, it's fresh. I mean, the idea of pulling bodies out of the mud hits right in that first chapter and gets you hooked. There's complexities here. Sure, some of them are left to the imagination, but really, it is a cool, well thought out concept that I really enjoyed. Second thing I can say I liked about this one is Makisa herself. I already know I like characters who are hard-headed and strong, so she was a favorite pretty quickly. I liked her focus, I liked her dedication, I liked her attitude. Really, I just like her. Third thing I can say I liked about this one is that relationships take the focus. It's kind of interesting to see that relationship ruled this fantasy story because it could have been easily dominated by its original and fresh fantasy elements. But mother-daughter, husband-wife, father-daughter, newly engaged couple, friend to friend. I mean, these relationships all really are what this story is about. There's a lesson in there, for sure. And you know I love my lessons. So I thought it was cool that in a fantasy story with a great fresh fantasy concept, at the end of the day, this is still a story about relationships. And that's a strong lesson in itself. Pretty cool. Who do I think should read this one? If you're a fan of stories that continue to get deeper as you read them, then you're going to love falling into this one. It gave me like M. Night Shyamalan's Village vibes in that way. Yeah. I also think if you like stories that don't give you all the answers and leave a little something to ponder and think about, you're going to like this one. My rating? I gave this one 3 stars. This is a good fantasy story for the right reader, and I definitely think if you're a fan of that comp title, well, comp movie Village, you should give this one a try. They had some similarities. So 3 stars for The Fields by Sammi Leigh Melville. The next book I read for the month of November, and the last one for this video, is actually going to be a fast review. By now, you probably know that's because nobody is waiting for this review, and it wasn't my favorite, so let's just do it quickly. That book is Closer Than You Know by Brad Parks. This is a 2018 publication by Dutton Books. It was an adult age category mystery thriller, and it was 402 pages. Your synopsis. Melanie Barrett grew up in foster homes. So when her son is taken from her and her home is forcibly raided, she knows what is facing him and she cannot stand the idea. As Melanie's horrors increase, her thoughts are constantly with her son and what she can do to bring him back. I'm going to skip to telling you just simply who do I think might like this one more than I did, and remind you you can check out my full review, including what I didn't like and what I did like, over on Goodreads. Who do I think might like this one more than I did? Look, if you like a good mystery thriller, but you don't really care if police procedures are inaccurate, you might like this one more than I did. I also think if you like twists and shocking turns more than you like relating to characters, you may actually like this one more than I did. But for me, I think it's pretty obvious. This one was hugely problematic. And so my rating, I gave this one 2 stars. 2 stars for Closer Than You Know by Brad Parks. All right, that is it for me for the end of my October list, and then the 2 that I've read so far in November. Thank you for being here. Drop a comment to let me know you're still here. Hit subscribe, tap that little bell so you know when I'm back. Keep plotting the path to your own dreams, and I will see you next time. Bye. Regular watchers of this channel will already know this, but I do book reviews every time I've read 5 books. You should know that I don't read just one specific age category or genre. I'm actually a reader of pretty much anything. So I will make sure to tell you what age category, what genre it is, and more importantly, what kind of readers I think will love the book that I'm reviewing. I do use a 5-star rating system to review all my books, so I'd like to take a quick second to tell you about that system. 5-star ratings are reserved for books that I absolutely love that I think transcend genre. In other words, you might love this one even if you don't normally read the genre it's written in. 4-star books, on the other hand, are books that I absolutely love and think are great books, but they're more specific to the genre they are written for. 3-star ratings are for books that I think are good books, but they have a really niche audience. You might not love this one, even if you normally read this genre. 2-star ratings are the ratings I reserve for books that I think are problematic. I do try to explain some of the problems in the what I didn't love section so that you know if it's the kind of thing that would really bother you or not. 1-star rating, on the other hand, are reserved for books that I honestly didn't enjoy and can't recommend. They're just not for me.